Letters for the Ages, the Ramban. We're in chapter 24 of the Ramban, of the Letters for the Ages. And we read of a universal obligation which he directs to his children, I direct to mine as well, in this series of letters to from the Ramban, as I say the same to my sons, Mayor David, Joshua, and David Joseph. He begins saying, "Take care to always study Torah diligently, so that you will be able to fulfill its commands. When you rise from the study, ponder carefully what you have learned, and see what there is in it that you can put into practice." In other words, the Torah is to put it into practice, not just theoretical. The Ramban here stresses that without diligent Torah study, it is impossible to live properly as a Jew. You could even say as a human being. The Rambam also rules in Hilchot Talmud Torah, chapter 1, verse 8 through 10. Every man is obligated. Notice he uses the word every man. Not only includes Jews, but also non-Jews. Every man is obligated to study Torah without exception. It makes no difference whether he's rich, whether he's poor, whether he's healthy, whether he's ill, young, or old. Even the pauper who lives from the alms and begs from door to door must study Torah. Even the man who is pressured to support a wife and children, every Jew must set aside a definite time to study by day and by night, and one must continue to study until the day of death. It becomes an obligation for everyone to take a time in their lives to dedicate for learning. The Rambam also teaches in the same section of Hilchos Talmud Torah, chapter 3, verse 12 through 13, that no matter what one's intellectual capabilities are, one can truly succeed in his studies if he fulfills to exert himself. Well, I don't understand this. Keep on pushing. You will eventually be able to absorb what it means. The rabbis taught that the Torah can only be fully comprehended by those who kill themselves over it. In other words, you're fighting yourself. You're fighting your own self to be able to push yourself to try to comprehend and learn. So one kills oneself over it, and one must take pain not to interrupt Torah study with frivolous conversations, things that have nothing to do with what's studying before you. Our sages taught in Avot chapter 4, verse 11, whoever neglects Torah study because of wealth will ultimately be forced to neglect it out of poverty. But whoever studies Torah despite poverty will ultimately fulfill it in wealth. Rabbeinu Yonah in Sha'arei Teshuvah, chapter 3, verse 14, writes that the mitzvah of Torah study is central. Likewise, it carries with it a heightened stake. Just as punishment for neglecting Torah study is harsh, so too the reward is greater than all of the mitzvahs, all of the commandments. Torah, instrument of self-knowledge. Now the Talmud states in Berachot 5a, and it teaches that if a person besets by misfortune, he should scrutinize his ways. As it's written, let us search and examine our ways and return to the Lord. Lamentation chapter 3, verse 40. If he fails to find his fault, what did I do wrong? He is unable to find it. What does he do? He fails to find it, then he may be assured that he has been punished for wasting time from Torah study. The commentary explains that no man is free from sin. We've all sinned. But if one intensively searched his soul and could find no wrongdoing, it can only be that he was equipped an inadequate tool in his search. More than anything else, Torah knowledge is this tool. It defines to the extent of one's obligation to his Creator, and if a man imagines himself to be spiritually flawless, he can thus be certain that he has not properly fulfilled his obligation of Torah studies. The Talmud states in Avodah Zarah 20, verse B, and it records by Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, who formulated a detailed program for attaining perfect spiritual character. And Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair said, Torah leads to introspection. Introspection leads to swift action. The person is not steeped in Torah. He lacks a yardstick with which to measure himself, and Torah study is thus a prerequisite says the Ramban, to effective introspection. So you've got to search yourself out. You've got to always look at how you can improve. This is the way of Torah. Greater than the writings of the angels. Chofetz Chaim attested that he learned to appreciate the value of Torah from Rav Israel Salanter. He once spent a night at the Vilna Hotel, sleeping in the room adjoining one occupied by Rav Israel. Late at night, he put his ear to the wall. He was awed by the sound of Rav Israel learning and repeating the Mishnah in Avot chapter 1, verse 13. He who fails to study Torah forfeits his right to life. The frightful but hushed tones he heard that night left him indelible impression upon him. The Chofetz Chaim writes, if we were told that the archaeologists had just discovered a book written by an angel Gabriel, how we could yearn to read it. Yet we have before us a book written by God himself, and we overlook it. And we overlook it. The Chofetz Chaim would also say, words of the Torah are like precious gems. Idle words are like dirt. One who interrupts his Torah study to engage in idle chatter is like the king who mixes dirt into the diamonds of his treasury. Chazon Ish, who collected letters in chapter 1, verse 3 of these letters, writes, one who study meets with constant interruption cannot hope to succeed. It is wise to devise ways to attain diligence. One possibility is to study a variety of subjects every day so that each of them remain fresh. For example, Chumash with Rashi, Mishnah, Musar, and Talmud. It is also worthwhile to study inside a Beit HaMikdash, a house of study, and with competent companions, one that can challenge your mind, challenge your understanding. But the most important thing to remember is that even when you study by yourself, you do so in the presence of the Lord. Never forget this. Whenever you study before the Lord. That means that you bring upon yourself the insight that God himself would provide you. If you study with 1, 2, 3, or even a group. Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman was once asked, why must Jews study Torah ceaselessly and practice commandments constantly, while the Gentiles need only to keep the 7 Noahide laws? He answered with the following illustration. The world can be compared to a luxury ocean liner. The moment the passengers come on board, the crew hovers over them and offers them the comforts and amenities. As the steward accompanies the guests to their stateroom, he must make one minor request. Please take just a few moments to read this card which outlines the ship's general rules and the emergency procedures. Then relax and have a carefree voyage. At the same time, the captain boards the ship, lugging a heavy briefcase bulging with maps, charts, and navigational equipment, and unceremoniously the captain's station helps at the helm of the ship. He helps firm to the steering with a grip that never is loosened. Even alert, the captain's eyes study the maps and gazes out the sea to spot danger. Through stressful days and sleepless nights, the captain's vigil continues. Finally, he brings the ship safely into port. Thus, during the voyage, the passengers are pampered while the captain is pressured. But then, and when they arrive at their destination, the passenger merely departs, whereas the captain receives praises and reward and recognition. Similarly, explained Rav Elchanan, that the earth is a ship journeying through the seas of history, and the nations of the world are passengers, while the people of Israel are captains. Thus the Jews must be diligently studying the sea charts of their Torah and use the navigational instruments which are their commandments. Only then can they steer the world on a course towards its final messianic destination. Only then, and then only, when the journey ends, will Israel, the captain of the ship, receive her appropriate recognition and reward. Shalom, shalom to all of you. And we finish chapter 24 of the letters for the ages. In our next chapter, which is chapter 25, which we will begin soon, we will be covering the review of your actions every morning. And this is why we're doing this mainly in the morning time, to remind us of how important it is to study Torah, to study and introspect our lives on a daily basis, and make the corrections that we need to do. May God bless you and keep you in all of your ways.